Welcome to a new Team CGC 9.8 video, and today we're doing our pricing video where we're going over notable CGC 9.8 sales from the past week. And I think this is a really important exercise just to basically stay on top of the market, stay on top of current market prices. If you're buying these CGC 9.8 books, that's probably the most important thing you could do, is just stay on top of the prices and know the right price to pay for a book. Because a lot of times when you're investing in a book, instead of, picking a book that's going to go up in price, a lot of times the best thing you can do is just pay the right price for the book. Because, say you overpay for a book by about $100, that's going to take out a lot of the rise in price, whatever your time frame might be. But, if you're holding for 5 or 10 years, if you overpay for a book by $100, a lot of times that could take away some of the rise in price. And, if your book if it just kind of holds its value and doesn't really go up, you might not even make too much money over the course of a long time. So being on top of the current market prices is probably the best thing you could do to just pay the right price for a book and not overpay, basically. So we'll get into all the prices here. All the prices I'm mentioning are from eBay, and they're in US dollars. And we got almost maybe 20 books here, so we'll get through them, get going here pretty quick. So first book is Deadpool #1. So that's the Deadpool #1 from about the mid-1990s. First appearance of T-Ray, first appearance of Blind Al. That one went for $220 US in a new case, and I would say that's pretty much about market price for that book. Maybe if you get lucky, you get it for about $200, but generally from about $200 to $250 for that. And first cool issue of that really cool Deadpool series from the mid-90s, and first appearance of T-Ray and Blind Al, which I think is a bit of a wild card. Obviously not very popular characters now, but a new movie comes out where they're prominent, who knows what could happen. So Deadpool #1, new case for $220 US, not too bad. Amazing Spider-Man 361, first Carnage, saw one go for $399.99. And that was in the new case in a direct version. So that's a pretty full price, I would say, for that. Every now and then, if you get pretty lucky, you could probably get a Amazing Spider-Man, first Carnage number 361 for about $300, maybe a little bit over, but this one going for full $400 in the direct edition too. It wasn't a newsstand edition. Just a really nice looking first Carnage in the direct version in a new case for $399.99. Not too bad. So a Sandman #1 went sold in a new case, and a lot of times you see these in the old case still going for like over $500. So it's certainly a really sought after book. This has a really big cult following, Sandman. So Sandman #1 in a new case. It went for a best offer. It was $600 or best offer, and it doesn't specify the actual dollar amount that's sold on a best offer, but I'm guessing it was listed for $600 or best offer, so probably about $550-ish. And just in the past couple videos here of these pricing videos, we saw a couple Sandmans go for like $550 to $575. So that seems to be kind of the going rate for Sandman #1 CGC 9.8. And all these prices are in the CGC 9.8 as well, and in the white pages too, unless otherwise specified. A DC Comics Presents #47, which is a book that I never saw before, I didn't know about. It's the first He-Man and Skeletor, though. So really cool first appearances. CGC 9.8 of this book went for $950. And first He-Man, first Skeletor, really cool looking cover. It was in an old case. But I think this is a pretty rare comic in the CGC 9.8. So $950 for first He-Man and first Skeletor, not too bad at all. I think, if you happen to be a fan of those, or, just in general of that era of kind of Superman DC comics, I think that's a really cool book to have. $950 for CGC 9.8, first He-Man and Skeletor. Yeah, that's pretty good, I think. So a Spawn #9, the first Angelo, went in a signature series. So signed by Todd McFarlane, just signed by Todd McFarlane too, no other signatures. And Spawn #9, it was a direct version, not the newsstand. This one went for $290. So Spawn number 9 signed by Mcfarlane in the direct version for $290. That's not too bad of a deal. Certainly if you're an Angela fan or just a Spawn fan, you want to get those Spawn keys, that's not too bad. Spawn number 9 signed for $290. Next one here is X Factor number 6, which is the first Apocalypse. And a couple weeks ago, I saw a really cheap one of those go, and I thought it was a really good deal. It was under $200, and I was like, you know what, under $200 for first Apocalypse, looking not too bad. So one sold for $249.99 this week, whereas that one from 2 weeks ago that was a really good deal, I thought sold for $175.50. So yeah, you got about a $75 difference for the same book. Remembering that $175.50 probably wasn't the most best centered book. I can't remember if it was a new case or an old case. But I do remember, because it was a lower price, it looked a little, a little bit off-centered, a little bit, maybe a sort of lower grade 9.8, if that's even possible. So this X Factor number 6 looking really good in the new case for $249.99. And sometimes you see that where, in an old case where maybe the pictures aren't looking that good, that'll go for maybe 10 or 20% less than the same book in a new case with really good pictures and a nice centered copy. People tend to get really picky when they're buying 9.8s, even the centering, so they're willing to pay up a little bit extra for that. And I've been in that situation as well. I'd really like, nicely centered 9.8s. So I paid a little bit of extra in my experience as well, so I think that's somewhat of a normal thing. An Iron Man 128, the Demon in the Bottle. Now this was a CBCS 9.8 for an Iron Man number 128 Demon in the Bottle, went for $359.99. And that's sort of for that era of Iron Man comics, is probably like the main key issue from that era, really popular. So to go for $359.99 in the CBCS 9.8, yeah, generally you're probably getting into $400 or over for CGC 9.8 of that issue. But not too bad of a deal, I think. $359.99 for a CBCS 9.8. A really cool issue I saw was another one here, Amazing Spider-Man number 127. This one's not a key issue, but it's really old to be in a CGC 9.8. But one of these sold, really nice looking copy, CGC 9.8. There's a Vulture appearance in this issue, but it isn't a key issue from that Amazing Spider-Man era. Amazing Spider-Man 127 CGC 9.8 sold for $450 US. And just, how old that book is in a CGC 9.8, I think that's a pretty good buy. Now, Wolverine Limited Series number 1. So this is a pretty good deal. It was in an old case, and sometimes in old cases you could really find good deals, and this would be a really good example of that. So Wolverine Limited Series number 1, a well sought after wanted book, sold for $250 in the old case. And I've seen that easily go for like $350 in a new case. This is Wolverine number 1, that limited series with Frank Miller doing the art. And yeah, to go for $250, I looked at the, looking at the auction a little bit closer too. The pictures are really nice, even though it's in an old case. The issue is really nicely centered, looked really crisp, and that's a really good example of, I think, how you can find really good deals in old CGC cases. Yeah, a lot of times the pictures are still really good, even though it's in an old case, like in this situation, and the comic itself looked really crisp and flat and nice. So, if you can do that and you can find some of these old case auctions and the comic still looks really good, I think that could be a good way to go about getting a deal on some of these books. So Wolverine Limited Series number 1 went for $250 in the old case. That's a good deal. Spawn number 1 in the direct series went for $114.99. So those almost go every week. I think last week one went for $100. So this just kind of gives you an idea of how the prices fluctuate a little bit. Spawn number 1 in the direct edition went for $114.99. An Uncanny X-Men number 136. This is the one where Cyclops is holding Dark Phoenix on the cover, and she's kind of dead. That's Uncanny X-Men number 136. That went for $349.99. And that whole John Byrne era of X-Men is quite popular. Usually anything in the CGC 9.8 of that is going to go for $300 to $350. Unless it's a key issue, then they go for a lot more depending on what issue it is. But yeah, that's not too bad of a deal. Uncanny X-Men number 136 for $349.99. Looked pretty good. It's not a key issue. There's other issues I'd rather have, but not too bad. An Avengers 181. Well, 2 of these actually sold, and pretty odd, I think, these prices. But you know, I double checked to make sure. But Avengers 181, which is the first Scott Lang, who would eventually become Ant-Man, the second Ant-Man. So one sold for $429.95, and another one sold for $250. And you know, getting into, you know, looking at both of them, the 251 did have, you know, the colors didn't quite pop like the $429 one, but they were both CGC 9.8s. So yeah, this gives you kind of an idea about, you know, how some people could pay up for an issue, but you could still get a pretty good deal if you wait. And yeah, sometimes the difference is, in this case, almost $200. You know, one going for $250, another one going for $429.95. This is the first Scott Lang, Avengers number 181. So you always want to, you know, be on the lookout for, you know, an issue maybe costing a little bit too much, where if you're patient and you wait a couple months, an auction will probably pop up, and then, you know, you might be able to get it for around that $300 level, rather than paying up right away and buying it for like $400 and something, which is pretty much, I think, what happened with this one. Although that one that did sell for $429.95 was a really nice looking copy, really nicely centered, colors were popping, it looked really good in the pictures. A Secret Wars number 8 sold. This one in an old case, so this is the origin of the alien symbiote costume, really popular book. Sold for $208.50. And this one being in the old case, that's a pretty good deal. You know, and a nice copy in the new case is usually going to start pushing $250 in that book. But that's a really good book, a really, you know, well sought after book, I would say. What If number 31, that's the What If Wolverine Had Killed the Hulk. That one went for $189. And that's a pretty decent deal as well, I think, especially given, you know, how Phase 4, the announcements came out, how they're going to have a What If series. You know, I think some of those books can maybe get a little elevated here, I would say. But, you know, $189 for that one, I think, you know, maybe is about $20 to $30 more elevated than what I've seen it go for in an auction. But still a pretty good price, I think. That's the What If Wolverine Had Killed the Hulk for $189. That's not too bad. Saw a really nice X-Men number 141. So first Days of Future Past, and this particular one was in the new case with the sort of X-Men graphic on it. So a brand new case, I would imagine. You know, just in the last couple months, this one would have been CGC'd. So X-Men 141 went for $449. And I think in a new case, a really good looking copy, this one. It was a direct edition, so not a newsstand. Really good looking copy to go for $450. I think that's a fair price. I don't think that's an amazing price or anything, but you know, X-Men 141 is certainly a key issue. This is a book that I really want. And even, you know, like, to give you an idea of how much some of the prices can fluctuate, a couple weeks ago, on one of these pricing videos, one went for just over $300. And that one, I don't think was looking as good as far as centering and colors. But, you know, for that to go for $300, I think it was $310 or $320, and then this one to go for $450, that can give you some of the idea about, you know, how much the prices fluctuate in these CGC 9.8s, and a lot of it is based on how the colors pop, how much, how the issue is centered. And just every now and then too, you do get, you know, some of these sellers do get a bit lucky and just sell their book for, you know, $100 more than maybe they should be. So, but you know, this one, brand new case, super awesome copy of 141 for $450, I would say is a fair price. Not a great deal, but a fair price. A Batman Harley Quinn. So this is the first Harley Quinn in DC continuity. I saw one of these sell for $300 US. That is not a bad deal at all. I think, you know, if you're a really big Harley Quinn fan, you really like Batman, Harley Quinn, you know, this is her first appearance in DC continuity for $300 US, I think is a pretty good deal. You see that book a lot of times, people trying to get, you know, $450, $500 for it and to buy it now. So $300 for that book, I think, is a good price. And the CGC 9.8 was looking really good too. Nothing wrong with it at all. I thought that would personally go for a little bit more. So $300, not a bad deal. A Savage She-Hulk, once again, went for $349.99. So that's the origin and first appearance of She-Hulk. That has basically, for the last few of these pricing videos, has been going for about $350. So I don't think there's any reason to ever pay more than $350 for a Savage She-Hulk #1. I saw an X-Men 129, first Kitty Pryde, big key issue from that era. Looks really good on the CGC census too. This is an issue I've wanted to buy in the past. And I was really close to kind of buying one too, but didn't end up winning the auction. That was like about a year ago. But really sought after key issue from this era of X-Men, the Byrne era of X-Men. X-Men 129 first Kitty Pryde went for $1,350. And, you know, that's a Super Series key issue. It's the most sought after key issue from that era. Looks really good on the CGC census too. It's quite rare. So that's what gets you, you know, over that $1,000 range. $1,350, an X-Men 129 going for. And our last book, we had two sell, and it was the Teen Titans 12, just like this one here in the 9.8 white pages. First full appearance of the Batman Who Laughs. Super popular, really cool villain right now. Probably one of the hottest villains going. So had two of them sell, and I think this is a really good example of, you know, how you can sometimes see some auctions that don't really look as good and maybe get a deal. Because one sold for $321, which is pretty much a fair price. In the last couple weeks, they're kind of going from like $320 to $340-ish, whatever it might be, if the pictures are looking quite good. So another auction, exact same book, CGC 9.8, pictures looking a little, I'm not sure, you know, how they were taking the pictures, but they didn't look as good as the one that went for $320. That one went for $290.57. And yeah, you know, looking on those pictures, they were a bit blurry, but you can almost see on the spine, sometimes these newer 9.8s have a bit of a fray on the spine. And then other times they're like just perfect. There's no fraying on the spine at all. So, you know, the one that went for $321 was looking really quite pristine. Really nice crisp pictures too to see everything. The one that went for $290.57, kind of blurry pictures, sort of saw that choppiness on the spine even though it was a CGC 9.8. Just, you know, some of those small details. So yeah, Teen Titans 12, I think, you know, if you get a good deal, $290. You know, a full price I think is about $325-ish right now. And that's for the first full appearance of the Batman Who Laughs. Kind of doesn't get any hotter than that. And, you know, this is one I obviously have, and I'd probably like to get another one too, just because really kind of drawn to the Batman Who Laughs character. Just really cool how I think they kind of melded Batman and Joker in an alternate universe. I think it's such a cool idea. But, you know, one going for $290 with, you know, the picture's not looking as good. I think long term with this issue, I think that's gonna be more of a fair price in the sort of $250 to $300 range. I think once everything really cools down, you know, the Batman Who Laughs kind of has a mini series now that's wrapping up. Once that wraps up, you might get a lull in the hype somewhat. And I know it's, you know, he's sort of supposed to be in the Superman year 1, 2 books, or, you know, I know they're continuing on with the Batman Who Laughs, but I think if the hype sort of dies down a little bit in the next year or two, I think this book will kind of go to $250, $300. And in that range, I feel like I would be willing to pick it up. Yeah, personally, I paid for my book, I paid $320 US. Or, you know what, it might have been Canadian dollars, I think. I think it was from someone in Canada. So $320 Canadian, which is going to put it at this sort of like $250 to $260 level that I think over long term, the book will kind of go down a little bit from here, being really hot right now, and, you know, back to that sort of, you know, $250, $260-ish range, I think. Because, you know, like other, like just one that comes off the top of my head, the first Bane is about $230 in the CGC 9.8 for a really nice copy, $220, $230. So, you know, to have this one be more than the first Bane already, I think, you know, that could be maybe a long-term target for this book, would be that sort of, you know, where Bane, the first appearance of Bane is at right now. which is, you know, about $230 to $250. I think where this book could go long term. But right now, a little bit more elevated, really popular book. One went for $290.57, the other one went for $321. Okay, that's going to do it for the pricing, our pricing video today. And again, you know, I think when, especially if you're buying or you're thinking of buying, maybe in a couple months you're going to be buying, but if you're doing any sort of buying in CGC 9.8 books, this is definitely the best thing you can do. You know, if it's once a week, then that's great. You can watch this video and we'll go over some prices. I'd probably recommend even more than once a week to just do what I've done with this is a completed listings search of CGC 9.8 books. And, you know, just take a half hour and go through the lists and go through a couple pages, a bunch of pages, and you're going to familiarize yourself with the prices, and you're going to be a lot more educated when you're looking at buying all these books. And, you know, take it from me, someone who kind of jumped into the hobby a couple years ago and didn't really do too much research on prices right at the beginning. Just being really excited and just kind of buying a lot of books right at the beginning. And I got some good deals and some bad deals. You know, I overpaid for some and got some good deals on some stuff. But if you do this once a week, at least you stay on top of those prices. You're going to be more knowledgeable about the market, and you're going to see those elevated prices, and you're not even gonna give them any headspace. It's just, wow, that's an elevated price. This guy's trying to get way too much for his book, you know, not even following that listing. And in that way, you just stay away from elevated prices, and when you pay the right price for your book, that's the best way to set you up for, you know, being a long-term investor in these books. Because if you do pay a really good price and you have a long-term time horizon, like over 10 years, I think, you know, most of these key issues you're going to do really good. Okay, so that's going to be it for today's video. Hope you enjoyed it. I love these pricing videos, actually. It's really good for me just to stay on top of everything too, because, you know, I'm a buyer at this time still too, doing a lot of my unbox videos too. If you haven't saw those, you can check those out. But if you haven't already too, please join the team and subscribe to Team CGC here. And yeah, we're getting up to about 2 months of the channel being in operation. So, you know, such an early time, we just need all the subscribers we can get. So that would be so appreciated if you do subscribe. So thank you very much. But thank you very much also for watching today. And thanks for all your comments and your support as well. And I'll see you on the next video.